Hey, what's going on, peeps? This is Ashen Eclipse back with another Diablo 3 video. I'm going to be doing another news type video. It's going to be part 3 of the little sort of mini series that I've been doing on the recent happenings with Diablo 3 and whatnot. So, going to go ahead and get into the first thing that I have here, which is a first look that Blizzard put up of the challenge rifts, and they published this on the site on the 16th, so I'm a little bit late covering it. But basically, it just goes over what challenge rifts are, what you can get from them, and they have a preview video here that shows how they work and all that good stuff. The simplified version of challenge rifts is that depending on what class you're using, if you do a challenge rift, you'll be assigned a specific build, which may or may not be a meta build. It may be off the wall build that is just kind of thrown together. And basically, the objective is to try to beat the time that was set for the challenge rift, and then based on how many minutes or seconds you beat the challenge rift by, based on the timer, is how you get ranked. I'm not sure, honestly, if challenge rifts are available in both seasonal and non-seasonal. I imagine they probably will be available for both non-seasonal and seasonal, because it wouldn't really make sense for them to just limit it to one aspect of the game. So, in my opinion, I think challenge rifts will be nice because it'll add another little bit more challenging aspect to the game instead of just the usual level and then gear grinds, which is what always happens in seasonal, especially when a new season starts. And then there's even still gear grinding and stat optimizing and all that good stuff, even when you aren't doing seasonal. So I think this will be good kind of distraction from this, more or less, just from the general sort of flow that Diablo 3 has. I did make the mistake of going and reading the comments, which were pretty comical like they usually are, but I noticed one of the top upvoted comments was someone saying that all they're doing for new content is just shoving different kinds of rifts into the game, and they're like not really doing anything unique or original with the game. They're just according to the person that made the comment, seems like all Blizzard is doing with the Diablo 3 side of things anyway is they're just thinking of different kinds of rifts to add to the game. And if you think about it too, even the set dungeons that you do for the seasonal conquests and whatnot, even those are technically just rifts. They're just the only thing with set dungeons that sets them apart from normal rifts is the level and environment is usually, well, not usually, it always is the same. There's no random generator part to the set dungeons, but despite that, you could still make the argument that set dungeons are still just a type of rift. So while I kind of agree with their comment that they really need to do something different with the game other than just shoving more rifts into the game that are different, I feel like they're kind of going in the correct path with challenge rifts and the fact that they're adding a little bit more challenging aspect to the game, that will require you to actually be a more skillful player rather than just praying to RNG bis every day that you get the gear you need or the stats that you're hunting for, whatever it might be. So in general, I would definitely say challenge rifts are a benefit to the game, and when they do get implemented, depending on what class I decide to play, whether it's monk or necromancer, I will definitely be giving challenge rifts a try just to see what it's all about and what kind of challenge it really actually does add to the game, from a actual player perspective rather than just watching previews and whatnot. So go ahead and move on to the second thing for our news, which is the Rise of the Necromancer pack, and it is arriving on the 27th of this month, actually, so the 27th of June, which is actually really surprising because my projection was that I more or less thought they would probably, at the very maximum, release the Rise of the Necromancer pack maybe like 2 weeks before Season 11 starts. And then they announced this, which just totally destroyed any kind of brainstorming I had going on about when they would actually release the Rise of the Necromancer pack, which isn't a complaint at all, honestly. I'm actually pretty excited that they are releasing the pack this early. For a number of reasons, it'll revitalize the game by adding in new content, brand new content that is, and it'll give them extra time that way to grind out any other kinks or glitches or game-breaking bugs or anything like that that might happen to arise that they didn't catch during the beta testing. So yeah, this is great. It's awesome that they're releasing the Necromancer pack this early. You have the Necromancer sizzle reel. This video is basically just it's the Necromancer introduction video. If you haven't seen that already, then the Necromancer introduction cinematic is actually really cool. I think they did a pretty good job with it overall, just the cinematic itself. And then also with this video, they added in a little bit more of an in-depth look at the items that you can get from purchasing the Rise of the Necromancer pack. Then they did also announce the price of the Necromancer pack, which will be $15. I feel they did a pretty good job being competitive as far as pricing goes, just based on the market and what they've done with other packs and other DLCs that they've done in general. So, and then also taking into account the items that you get from the pack and the other goodies, which are the character slots and the stash tabs. $15 isn't too bad. I think it would be a little bit more reasonable if they had made it about $10. I think $10 would have been much more competitive and a little bit more reasonable given the items that you're getting from the pack. But $15 for new content and extra goodies, I can't really complain too much about that. I think they did a great job sort of looking at the market and then deciding on their price point. I believe a lot of people were actually brainstorming that the pack was going to cost more like $20 to $25. So even at 15, I think it's already a lot cheaper. Well, not a lot cheaper, but a little bit cheaper than people originally anticipated. So that's great. And like I said, it's coming way more early than I had thought it would. And even for a lot of other people as well, like they weren't even remotely expecting them to release the pack this early. So, and then you got a little FAQ down here. What is the Resin Necromancer pack? The Resin Necromancer pack is a purchasable content pack coming to Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls and Diablo 3 Ultimate Evil pack or Evil Edition. Sorry. The Diablo 3 Ultimate Evil Edition, I believe, is just going to be like how they had the previous Diablo 3 bundle, where it was the base Diablo 3 game, and then with it you got Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls at a discounted price. So I think what the Ultimate Evil Edition is going to be is it's going to be like that. It'll be the base Diablo 3 game, and then instead of it just including Reaper of Souls, it'll include Reaper of Souls and the Necromancer pack. So that'll be a great opportunity to get all of the Diablo 3 content that has been released thus far for a pretty decent discount. So if there ends up being people that come to Diablo for the first time, their wallets will definitely be happy with the sort of bundle that they are going to be having going on. Second question was included in the Resin Necromancer pack. In addition to full access to the Necromancer class in both campaign and adventure modes, the Resin Necromancer pack includes additional exclusive digital items, which is the half-formed golem, the wings, the banner-shaped signal and accent, the Necromancer portrait frame, the pennant, the character slots, and the stash tabs. The third question, what about all the other features coming in patch 2.6? Challenge Rifts, the Shrouded Moor Zone, Temple of the Firstborn Zone, and the Realms of Fate are all free content. If you own the Reaper of Souls expansion pack, they are available to play without any additional purchases. So that's really nice. They're putting out a relatively major patch that has all this free content, which I feel is actually a considerable chunk of new content, so that's really cool. The next question, when will the pack be available for purchase? We already know it's going to be available on the 27th of June, which is this month. And then it'll be different for different regions and countries, of course. Next, how much will the pack cost? We know that the pack was going to cost $15, which I feel is very reasonable considering what you're getting, especially with the content we're going to be getting in 2.6. The next question, how do I purchase the Resident Necromancer pack? For PC, you'll be able to purchase both directly through a new in-game store front or via the Blizzard shop. I actually haven't heard anything about this new in-game store. I don't know if that's going to be like, if there's going to be a new front page or display in Diablo 3 or how that works, or if it's going to be in the Battle.net launcher, or I'm honestly not sure. But usually for DLC content, personally, I usually just go to the Blizzard shop. So, but it'll be interesting to see what this new in-game storefront is. The next question, I should say, will there be a box release for the Rise of the Necromancer? As this is digital content and on expansion, the Rise of the Necromancer pack will not be available as a physical product, which makes sense. They always intended it to be a digital content rather than a physical product, so that isn't surprising. What is the Diablo 3 Eternal Collection? I think I got the Ultimate Evil Edition and the Eternal Collection confused. Let's see. Players on PS4 and Xbox One will have the opportunity to purchase an all-in-one package and the Eternal Collection. This bundle includes both the Diablo 3 Ultimate Evil pack and the Rise of the Necromancer pack, and will be available at a special introductory price of $40 US. So that is actually an incredibly good deal. If you're getting Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls, and the Rise of the Necromancer pack for $40, that's actually really competitively priced, considering how much content that gives you in general. And I actually did get the Eternal Collection and the Ultimate Evil edition confused. The Ultimate Evil edition is actually the base Diablo 3 game and Reaper of Souls, and then the Eternal Collection is going to be all three with the Rise of the Necromancer pack included. So that's that. And then, will the Rise of the Necromancer pack be available to play at midnight? No, the Rise of the Necromancer pack requires patch 2.6 to be installed. After maintenance is completed in your region, you'll be able to purchase and access the Rise of the Necromancer pack. When will maintenance begin? For PC, it looks like 10 a.m. So that would be 10 a.m. on the 27th. And then, of course, for different regions and countries, the times are different. So that's interesting too, actually, because I thought they were going to wait to release 2.6 until next month. So I'm assuming that means we get the Rise of Necromancer pack along with patch 2.6 on the 27th. So that's really interesting then. So we'll be getting all of this new content, and then I'm assuming what they're going to do is they're still going to wait to start Season 11 when they had originally planned it, which is the 20th of July, or I believe it's the 20th of July that Season 11 is scheduled to start, but that's because I believe originally they had mentioned that they were going to wait to release 2.6 until around the same time period of the start of Season 11. So we were going to get 2.6, and then shortly after we would be able to start Season 11. But I guess they changed it, and they're going to release 2.6 along with the Necromancer pack about more or less a full month early, which I feel is actually a really smart decision on their part, because that way, with the patch and the Necromancer pack, if they release it to the public and bring it out of beta, it'll give them an extra full month basically to do maintenance and see if there's any game breaking bugs or glitches or anything like that. So not only is it awesome that we're getting the content a lot earlier than we thought, but it's also giving them extra time to finish developing the content, monitor it, and make sure that there isn't any other issues before Season 11 does start. So that's great. How long will maintenance last? Maintenance typically lasts between 1 to 2 hours. That's pretty much been the norm with all sorts of maintenance that Blizzard does, regardless of what game it is. The only times maintenance is usually longer than 2 hours is when they have a huge amount of content launching, like an expansion, like the Legion expansion for World of Warcraft was a great example, because I believe the maintenance for that took a full 5 or 6 hours. Can't remember, but it was way longer than the norm. But there was also a massive amount of content too. So where can I learn more about the Necromancer? We've released several informational blogs, which are linked below. In addition, keep your eyes on our front page for more news, media, and content as our release date draws nearer. So that's that. Rise of the Necromancer pack. I'm super excited that they're releasing this so early. And I will definitely be going through the campaign with the Necromancer at the least. And then I will more than likely end up playing a Necromancer in Season 11 as well. But I'm definitely going to play around with it in non-season just to see how it plays and how I like it, what kind of builds are viable and what builds are not viable at all and irrelevant, which I hope with the Necromancer especially they'll be a little more aggressive in switching the viable builds around so that we don't just have the same viable builds over and over and over and over again, because especially with Season 10, I actually noticed when I was looking through the past 4 seasons, so from Season 6 to Season 10, Monk, for the most part, especially in the top 20, it was all pretty much the same builds. There hasn't been a unique, different, viable Monk builds in 4 seasons, which is actually pretty insane. for just as a gaming perspective, it's not good for things to get that stale and just stay the same for that long. It's just it'll end up boring people really quickly because you can only play the same build so many times before you're just like fuck it and you go play a different game or something because you're tired of grinding for the same gear and the same stats and the same gems. So hopefully, as far as that goes, with this next major patch 2.6, hopefully they're working on changing Monk so that Monk actually has maybe one or two new viable builds instead of just Raiment Generator and Legacy of Nightmares Lashing Tail Kick. Because if Monk has the same exact viable builds again in Season 11, is going to start being a pretty major problem. So hopefully they've been looking into that. But let's move on to the next segment of news, which is another first look, and it is the Shrouded Moors and Beyond. So they do have a preview video of the Shrouded Moors and the other new zone that will be coming in 2.6. I do definitely recommend you guys watch the video for the preview of the Shrouded Moors and the other new zone. They look really pretty cool. They look really cool, in my opinion. They just artistically, they did a really great job keeping it really dark and gritty. I would actually say that these new zones are even more dark and gritty than the other zones that are already available in the game. So they did just an awesome job with the content development and the artistic nature of the zones in general just looks great. Here we just have some text detail on what the areas are like. This is for the Shrouded Moors, and then they have some concept art, it looks like. Yeah, this does definitely look like concept art for the Shrouded Moors. And then here we have some I believe this is actual in-game screenshots that they have. That being sort of it looks like an entrance or a walkway or some kind of path with all the rock formations and candles. I think that looks pretty cool. And then the next screenshot we have is one of the new monsters, which is actually a werewolf, which is very fitting for the Shrouded Moors, actually, in my opinion. Just based off of how the area looks, I feel the werewolf monster just meshes with the landscape in the area really well. And then the last screenshot we have is I don't know what this is specifically. I think it's no, it's not a ritual site, but you got your blood pool here and your pots and your candles, and it's very artistic. There's also a little bit of fog, so that's pretty cool as well. And then for this woman, I'll just call her the Blood Maiden because I don't really know what else to call her, honestly. But again, they did a really great job with the artistic design of these zones. As you can see, everything down from the physical aspects like the pots and the candles and the blood pool to things like the fog for the area. So, and then we have the Temple of the Firstborn, desiccated or desecrated. An ancient monument to the earliest Nephilim, the Temple of the Firstborn has long been hidden away deep beneath the surface of sanctuary. However, a new and dangerous cult has arisen and taken residence within the buried structure. Disappearings on the outskirts of the moors are inciting fear, and the dusty tiles of the temple are streaked with disturbingly fresh blood. There's no doubt that a powerful evil now lurks below. Temple of the Firstborn is the other new zone going along with the Shrouded Moors. And since I went through the Temple of the Firstborn description, text description that is, I'll go ahead and go through the Shrouded Moors real quick as well. Fetid swamps stretch beyond your vision, obscured by a dense fog that commands malevolent intent. Ancient structures long since abandoned are scattered across the sunken mire, and the absence of human activity might have something to do with an ongoing eerie sense of being watched. Still, despite the sense that something unnatural looms in the distance, the notion that treasure and glory may await tempts even the most cautious being. So, for both of these new areas, they actually did a pretty good job even with the text description. The Shrouded Moors was a little bit more bland, but it is a little bit more bland of an area compared to the Temple of the Firstborn, so that is fair enough. Makes sense. And then down here we have some in-game screenshots of the Temple of the Firstborn and what it looks like. We got pots, which have always been in the game, but I do appreciate that with these pots they added unique kind of art style to the pots. And then we got benches as well, which as well have their own artistic elements. The wall textures are very artistic. The bones sort of spilling into the room is a very interesting touch. Kind of gives an idea of how many beings or humans in general may have died in the area. And then we have a female statue with horns and a plate full of blood, which is just sort of pooling here on the ground. So, very interesting. Then the next screenshot we have is some more sort of artistic detail. We have a new monster here as well, which actually reminds me a lot of Mephisto from Diablo 2. This monster does have a lot of similarities, especially with these sort of back spines, I guess you could call them. And then the uniqueness, of course, comes with the little the tentacles, of course. And then in the background we have some, it looks like torture devices and dead humans, so that's pretty dark and gritty. But that does go with what I said earlier, which is they did a really good job with these new zones being dark and gritty. So just kudos to the artistic team for Diablo 3 as far as area and zone design. Here is just a screenshot showcasing some more of the artistic design on the walls and the archways. We have another skeleton, and then we have a armor and weapon holder, basically, which it does look a lot like the other ones, but it does have its own artistic look to it as well. So, just like with the pots, they did pay attention to detail as far as that goes, with actually putting in original artistic elements rather than just copy and pasting and then slapping it into the new zone. They actually went to the trouble of, even down to the fine details, like on the floor, you can see artistic patterns. They just went really far into the fine detail to actually provide uniqueness to these new areas, so that's great. And then Realms of Fate, a heavenly consequence. High heavens are still reeling from the events of the Primeval's assault, while the angelic host works to repair the damage from the atrocities that violated their sacred home. The Archangel of Fate, Ethereal, has discovered a curious development in the far corners of his sanctified libraries. That is interesting. So, seamless environmental transitions blend endless possibilities together. This is really interesting. So for this, I don't know if this is just going to be for this area, or if it's going to be for all sorts of different areas, or how this is going to work, but having seamless environmental transitions is actually really nice. Not that loading from one area to another usually took all that long, but still, seamless environmental transitions are still really nice. The tomes and history stored within his libraries are changing the heavens themselves, transforming into small pockets reflecting the past, present, and potential futures. Though no one can make sense of why this has occurred, it still poses a threat to Sanctuary. Tyrael invites the Nephilim to investigate. His faith in their skills, if not their hearts, is still strong. So this is really interesting. It's not a new area, obviously, but it seems like they're taking existing areas and adding new and unique twists on them, which is actually really great. Because, like I said, with the monk builds earlier, you can't keep things stale for very long and still keep people's attention, because they'll just go and find other things to do, and that may result in them going to an entirely different game in general, which is never a good thing. That's actually the primary reason why the player base for Diablo 3 has died down as much as it has, because the game has gotten so stagnant and stale, and just there hasn't been anything new going on, so there hasn't been any priority or encouragement for people to stick with the game. So I think patch 2.6 and the Necromancer pack will be very needed revitalization, even if it's minor, to the game, and just encourage people to come back to see what has changed in the game environmentally and from a gameplay perspective as well. Bounties, treasures, and monsters await. All three of these new areas are coming in patch 2.6. Okay, so apparently the Realms of Fate actually is a new area, which is interesting because there was already an area like this. Well, that area there already exists, and then the sort of barrack areas already exist as well. So, okay, yeah, I understand what they did here now. The Realms of Fate basically what the area is it's an area that is comprised of other major areas in the game, which, while it isn't unique and it isn't a completely brand new area, it is still new and different in the fact that they're taking old areas and kind of melding them together, which makes sense why there's these seamless environmental transitions in this area, because it helps improve that transition and change from one section of area to a different section of area. So I think, even though, like I said, this isn't a completely new area and it doesn't have original art design and aspects to it, I feel that this will still be interesting to even people like myself who have played Diablo 3 for quite a while. So all those three new areas are coming in patch 2.6, which is completely free to all players with the Reaper of Souls expansion pack or the Ultimate Evil edition of Diablo 3. Will you solve the mysteries lurking below the shrouded moors, or will you wander the realms of fate, forever searching for your future? The choice is yours, hero, and we look forward to seeing the fruits of your endeavors. So this is really cool. Like I said, with the Realms of Fate, it isn't a completely new area or zone, but I still feel like it's unique because they're taking old areas and kind of meshing them together with those seamless environmental transitions, so that's still really cool. And then you have your brand new areas with all original art design and concepts, and also the major reason to watch the preview video is they actually do give you a preview of the new monsters as well as some of the new unique events to the new areas. So, and those are really cool as well. So definitely watch the video, the preview video of the new zones, guys. We'll move on to the second to last piece of news, which is Deadly Roots, the lore of the Necromancer. This is just more Necromancer lore for anyone who is even halfway interested in lore, and even for those that are really super hardcore into the lore. I think this is great because it goes over Rothma, which is what one of the Necromancer sets is based around. And then it mentions Medellin the Apprentice. I'm honestly not sure who Medellin was apprenticing to, but that's another nice part of lore. And then you got this really cool looking art that was made by the Diablo 3 team, I believe. I would assume so. But yeah, that's actually a really cool piece of art. Very, very detailed, and got some effects going on with the smoke and whatnot coming off of their body, and then the stone that looks like it's covering their hands, forearms, feet, and lower legs. So that's interesting. I imagine it's just stone covering the appendages and not and not actual, like that part of their limbs aren't actual stone, it's just stone covering their limbs. I could be wrong, but... And then you get the lore on the priests of Rathma, and then serving the balance, which I imagine just goes into detail about what the purpose is of the necromancer, and then the necromancer and the dark wanderer, how the two kind of convene, so to speak. And then at the bottom here, you got some more detailed, really nice necromancer art. So that actually is a really nice necromancer desktop picture. There we go. My brain turned off for a second there. But yeah, really nice necromancer art. For anyone that would want to use it as a background picture for their desktop. And then some more interesting art about sort of how the necromancer looks and different things, scribbles. Actually, that looks like an entirely different language explaining different aspects of the necromancer. So that's pretty interesting. But really nice sketch here. Very artistic and well done with the different lights and darks. And then, of course, this picture as well, which is far more detailed and artistic, which is why I was wondering if it was actually from the D3 team or if it was just fan art from someone from like DeviantArt or something. But I imagine this has to be art that was made by part of the Diablo 3 development team. So yeah, they did a really good job on it. The thing with this picture too is I imagine there probably is just stone covering his limbs, because if you notice, he's well, it may actually be, it might actually not be stone, it might actually be heavily dried out dirt that's sort of caked onto his limbs. And I imagine that must be metalin. Or Mendelin, I should say. Metalin. I don't know how to pronounce things. How do I English again? Hold on, I need to go through my English book from 3rd grade. I honestly should consider that sometimes with how much my English just takes a gigantic dump. My typing is just as bad sometimes these days, but anyway, gonna move on to the last piece of Diablo 3 news, which is necromancers you should know from Diablo lore. This is actually really cool in my opinion, and this is on the Diablo fans website. If you don't know it, it's just www.diablofans.com. Usually they post unique things like this, for example, instead of just reposting what gets posted on the main Diablo 3 news portion of the site. And then you have some necromancer art here from the upcoming DLC, which is really cool and pretty well done. I like the sort of design that this picture has. where it has soft lines and things like that. And then, let's see, necromancers have been present at some of the greatest conflicts in the history of Sanctuary. Ever vigilant, these keepers of the balance roam the world, seeking out any corruption from the burning hells or rare interference from the high heavens. Today we take a look at some of the most famous members of the priests of Rothma. So what this is it's literally just necromancers that were famous for one reason or another, or many reasons, throughout Diablo lore. So this is actually really cool. It does mention Mendelin, and I haven't heard of Mendelin. Kara Night Shadow, I believe I've heard of Kara Night Shadow maybe once or twice. And then you have Zool, of course. Really nice art of Zool here. Especially with the I can't think of the zone right now, but so it's just a really nice artistic piece in general with where Zool is, and especially his pose. The other thing with Zool too is he is a playable character in Heroes of the Storm, so I will go over Zool real quick. Zool, perhaps the most famous necromancer. Zool fought against the three primal evils during their resurgence and plot to corrupt the World Stone. Zool was part of a group of adventurers that chased Diablo and his brothers from the wilds of Honduras to the jungles of Krast to the snowy reaches of Harogoth and even into the depths of hell. After defeating the three and the destruction of the World Stone, Zool returned to the jungles of Kazakhstan and mentored an apprentice, Metan. Interesting. I actually did not know Zool had an apprentice. So, yeah, you know, if you guys have any interest in lore at all, or even just with the Rise of the Necromancer pack coming out and being available to us soon, you guys are just hyped and you want to read more stuff about the Necromancer, then lore like this is great. It's great entertainment, and it gives you an opportunity as well to just learn more of the backstory about the Necromancer in general. Caribidis. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce that. So, and then Zale. I believe Kara Night Shadow and Zale were mentioned in part of the Diablo 2 lore, I think. I could be completely wrong with that, but yeah. Like I said, guys, if you guys are just really hyped about the Necromancer and you just want to, like, instead of staring at the clock, waiting until the Rise of Necromancer pack actually releases along with patch 2.6, if you guys just want something to do, then I definitely recommend checking out the various different kinds of Necromancer lore that's around. Because like I said, it's good entertainment, and it also lets you learn more about the Necromancer and what their overall goals are and their backstory and all that good stuff. So this, I know this was a pretty long, or was a decently long video, but there was quite a few different subjects that I had to cover in this video this time. So but But either way, I hope you guys found the information helpful and informative, and I know a lot of this information isn't exactly, secret or not known, because most of the stuff that I covered is on the main Diablo 3 site, which is just the battle.net/D3 site. But the Diablo fan stuff I like to cover because they usually do try to provide some unique things, even if it's just one unique post that wasn't posted on the official Diablo 3 site. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to poke that like button. If you have any questions, or if I forgot to point anything out or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment. And if you did enjoy the video, feel free to share it to a friend or two. I appreciate any kind of help as far as that goes, whether it's sharing, commenting, or giving a like, or even just taking a look at the video, period. I really appreciate that you guys take the time to check my videos out and watch them, even if some of my videos are kind of on the longer side. And I don't take it offensively at all if you guys don't stick around for the entirety of my videos, especially the longer ones, because I know it can get a little daunting to sit through a half-hour video sometimes, but that'll do it for me for this video, guys. I hope everyone had a good work week and is planning on having a good weekend, which I'm sure you guys are. Weekend is always a good time after a work week, especially if those of you happen to have jobs that are more on the pain in the butt side of things, where you're constantly wanting to go bald from ripping your hair out. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.